walking! Stop! Turn around! Walk backwards! Walk backwards towards my voice! Walk backwards! Keep walking! Keep walking!
Space.
Bring him out. Out! Come out! Get on your knees! Down your knees! Down your knees!
Look at me.
Stay there. Do not move.
Explain all of it. Keep focused on me.
I've seen you're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
Sexual frustration coupled with the acute, long-held anger springing from that. These are the reasons why, on the 24th of May 2024, 20-year-old criminology student Nasen Saadi from Croydon, South London, murdered 34-year-old Amy Gray and attempted to murder her friend, 38-year-old Leanne Miles. Amy and Leanne were two complete strangers to their attacker and, in line with that, were two wholly innocent victims. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. Born in 2003 and raised in a Buddhist household, Saadi has never had a girlfriend and has never had sex, and these two statuses of his stem, I think it's safe to say, from his open and lifelong contempt for women and girls. At school, nobody liked the boy and he was, as such, a social outcast. His derogatory comments against women, including that all women are weak and worthless and don't deserve to engage with certain work roles like policing, were amongst the things that he said and did that earned him the dislike of just about everyone. The fact that the man could never get a girlfriend, no matter how hard he tried, triggered a devastating self-esteem crisis inside of him, which only served to transform his abject contempt for the opposite sex into a searing hatred for it. With that hatred for women and girls, which came, as I say, from his, virginity? Saadi was an incel, an involuntary celibate. I'll leave you to look up the murderous acts committed by Elliot Rodger from California, USA in 2014 and by Jake Davison from Plymouth, UK in 2021 if you need any further examples of men who kill just because they can't get their leg over. There being, sadly, so many more examples of such men than those two. At the time of his disgusting acts against Amy and Leanne, the perpetrator was studying criminology and criminal psychology at Greenwich University in South London and sinking deeper and deeper into the disturbing darkness of extreme violence. Not only did he usually spend lectures watching graphic videos, he also had a habit of asking his lecturers about self-defense claims in murder cases and the longevity of DNA, even when those two things had nothing to do with the topic of the lecture. When evaluating a crime case, Saadi would invariably begin by offering a defence of the criminal in question. When, on one occasion, he asked his lecturer, Dr. Lisa Maria Rees, quote, "How can I get away with murder?" unquote, Dr. Rees responded by asking him, quote, "You're not planning a murder, are you?" unquote. Ha! If only she'd known. In that same conversation with Dr. Rees, the perpetrator asked how forensic evidence was captured and shared, how the police are able to trace a killer, and whether the different police forces in the UK exchange case information and evidence with one another. Again, none of these questions was related to the topic of the lecture that he just had. I don't know what answers Dr. Rees gave, or whether the police would have been able to act in some way if she'd reported Saadi to them. But if you're wishing she'd gone to the police anyway, you're not the only one. Shortly after this conversation with Dr. Rees, Saadi bought the 6 knives that were later found in a search of his home by the police, taking care to buy each one from a different seller so as not to arouse suspicion. He then started looking up whether he could pay for an Airbnb with cash, or, if not, whether credit card payments could be traced, which UK beaches tended to be busy, whether people went to beaches at night, whether it was easier to run on pebbles as opposed to on sand, and how busy Bournemouth Beach typically became. This was all in April 2024, the perpetrator having looked up the month before, quote, "Why is it harder for a killer to be caught if he does it in another town?" unquote, and having since come to the conclusion that killing far away from where he lived would afford him the greatest chance of avoiding capture. Having since settled on Bournemouth as the town where he would fulfil his disgusting plan, in the middle of May, Saadi booked a Travelodge for the 21st and the 22nd of May and the Silver How Hotel for the 23rd and the 24th of May, having satisfied himself through his fucked up research that those two hotels had no operational CCTV cameras. On this point, after arriving in Bournemouth on the 21st of May, the man spent the next 3 days taking a number of walks up and down the promenade to see where the CCTV cameras were located, in order, of course, to identify the best location for what he had in mind. At around 11:20 p.m. on the 24th of May, dressed all in black and wearing the hooded top that he had worn every day of this murder trip of his so far, no matter how hot it got, Saadi, who'd been strolling along Daily Chime Beach, pounced. Amy Gray, 34, and her friend Leanne Miles, 38, are sitting beside a fire that they've lit on Daily Chime Beach, chatting, chilling and enjoying the moment. It's approximately 11:20 p.m. on the 24th of May 2024. Amy is a beloved wife, mother and daughter. She's also a carer for her 90-year-old grandmother, who sadly has Alzheimer's disease. Having recently been made head coach of Dorset Futsal, a women's football team, Amy's is a life of contentment with so much to look forward to. She's now dead, however, because there was nothing that paramedics could do about the 10 stab wounds to the chest that she suffered only minutes before. Dying at the scene, she had basically sacrificed herself for her friend, who the attacker had stabbed first, only to stop and attack her after she bravely yelled at him to leave Leanne alone. Nobody had seen the attack or heard the screams made by the two victims, since there was nobody else in sight. Leanne, meanwhile, has suffered no fewer than 20 stabs to her back, one of which having punctured a lung. It was only when she screamed to the attacker that she had children that the man stopped chasing after her and stabbing her, such as he had been doing, and then immediately took flight. I have no idea how Leanne was able to run from the attacker, first with the initial stab wounds that the man had inflicted on her, and then with the said further 20 stab wounds that he also inflicted on her. But like you, I am just so glad she did. She was subsequently rushed to hospital, members of the public having soon seen her and all the blood dripping from her, and having duly called the emergency services. 4 days after his acts against Amy and Leanne, Saadi was arrested on suspicion of Amy's murder and of Leanne's attempted murder, and having genuinely believed until that point that he had got away with what he'd done, he was clearly gutted. In his police interview, the perpetrator appeared to remain calm and offered what he clearly considered powerful counters to the evidence against him that officers showed him. His speaking was notably slow, his voice itself was markedly weak, hardly sounding confident and composed then, and far from outsmarting the detectives as he thought he could with his knowledge of criminology, the perpetrator fell flat on his stupid face.
Said this is about us getting answers, finding the truth, yeah? It's about trying to establish how Amy died, how Leanne was attacked, and why. There's lots of things here that indicate that you are the person responsible.
And I'm not responsible.
Okay.
And I have no reason to attack someone for no reason.
Have you been motivated by something else?
No comment. I wouldn't attack someone for no reason.
So, but do you understand what I mean? Is there something else going on that will be an explanation as to what's then happened?
No comment.
Your interests?
That's related to my university.
Okay. Your views towards females?
No comment.
So I really think you've got some important information here. You've got some answers here that can help us deal with what's taken place.
I haven't got any.
So now I think we are getting to the point where, do you think there's anything we've not talked about or asked you about that's important that you need to tell us?
I'm just saying I'm wrongly accused of mistaken identity.
Okay.
And mistakes can happen, and I'm just not responsible.
Okay. Is there anything you think we haven't understood?
I think just because someone is wearing the same clothes is circumstantial.
And having thought about what we've talked about or what we've just said, are you prepared to tell us things like where the clothing is that you were wearing that night?
No comment.
What we've seen you wearing on the previous nights?
I have no comment.
The rest of your belongings or possessions are?
No comment.
And crucially, where you were, because it's a very quick inquiry to confirm where you were, to prove or disprove whether you were the person we're saying has moved along the beach and done this attack.
Well, I left Bournemouth on the 25th on like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we know that, but we're just trying to establish where you were between 11 and midnight. And that will really assist. What's preventing you telling us that?
No comment.
I think what's preventing you is the fact that, as the evidence shows, you are the male that is responsible for the murder and an attempted murder. You were on the beach that night.
But beaches are like popular places. Many people on the CCTV that you showed me, there were many like people walking. It's not just one person.
Were you that one person we saw?
No.
Okay. So we'll check a few bits. You mean, you've just told us then, haven't you, about the whole going back on the 25th? Is there anything else you can tell us about what else you were doing on the 24th and 25th?
Well, I was back home on the 25th, but I can't remember anything after.
After what?
I got home.
Okay. But yesterday you couldn't remember anything after the beach at Thursday afternoon?
No.
But we've been able to recall some more information about your movement on the Friday morning, Nisa and shop, Superdrug. We've managed to establish some more memories about your movement on the beach where this incident happened at 4:30. Yeah? You remember being on the train, wearing the hat and the sunglasses. So, fill in those other blanks. You can't, can you?
No.
And the reason you can't is because the blanks are, you were the male we've just seen on that CCTV that's been identified as being responsible for what's happened to Leanne and to Amy.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Or a statement?
Is that something you'd like to comment on?
No.
Okay. In that case, is there anything from anyone else?
No.
Sure there's nothing you want to add or clarify?
A lesser conviction of Saadi's relates to the offence of failing to disclose the password to his mobile phone to the police. So one minute the bloke's telling the cops it wasn't me, the next minute little Mr. Innocent is preventing them from accessing the digital content of his mobile phone. In court, the judge said this was obviously because of the incriminating evidence held in that digital content. Saadi wanted to hurt women and to become the star of the true crime story, a story of murder of course, that he had both written and directed. Infamy was his aim. While he was on remand at Belmarsh Prison, Saadi asked a female prison officer whether she'd heard about the Bournemouth Beach murder, what was being reported on the case, and indeed whether there had been substantial media coverage, then began to touch his cock in front of her. Having pleaded not guilty, but having stuck to his belief that he could outwit a court, Saadi barely had any recourse to legal representation. Even when he was eventually appointed a legal team, he mainly shunned them. Talk about arrogance, recklessness and stupidity. While his trial of November 2024 had been expected to last 3 weeks, it was over in only 9 days, the judge blasting the perpetrator in his sentencing hearing of the 28th of March 2025 for having put Amy's family through the pain of a trial on account of his not guilty plea. She remarked that Saadi had no prior convictions, but that he was now nothing other than a worthless piece of shit. Quote, "Why Amy Gray and Leanne Miles? Prior to your conviction, you gave no account or explanation for your actions. You made no comment in interview with the police and did not give evidence at your trial where you were convicted on overwhelming evidence. You admitted your guilt for the first time to Dr. Ruthenberg, a psychiatrist who has prepared a report at the court's request for your sentence. You clearly should have pleaded guilty to these offences, avoiding the need for Ms. Miles and the families of your victims to go through the stress of a trial. Your refusal to do so shows not only a complete lack of remorse, but, in my view, also that you sought the notoriety that you hoped a trial would give you." Unquote. Attacking 2 defenceless women who were all on their own and killing one of them and trying, of course, to kill the other one. This is, if you like, a parallel case to that of that mad idiot Daniel Hussein, who murdered 2 sisters in a park in Wembley during the COVID period because he thought that the devil would then help him win the lottery. It was literally a deal with the devil. Saadi was studying criminology and criminal psychology. So was the suspect behind the 4 murders that took place in a student home in Idaho back in, I think it was October 2022. It's Brian Koberger. Saadi can apply for parole when he's 59 or 60. He got 39 years. Let those years be absolute hell for him and let him never get parole. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.